welcome in everybody. Trying to figure out which camera I'm actually looking at here. I think it's down here, which is really weird because this isn't what I'm usually looking at. So, and the screen's not the right size either. Anyway, I gotta wait a minute for my delay. Still listening to the opening music and about done. Yeah. Okay, yep. Now I can hear it. Yeah, I don't have you on. I've got you muted. Hang on.
I think you're muted.
Sorry, what?
I said, I think you're muted.
I think I meant to mute you, and I muted myself to you is what I did. But I'm gonna keep the earbud in a second because you and I are talking. There's a delay still. Figuring all of that out. So if maybe you and I just talk a little bit here at the beginning to make sure nothing's happening, reverb, anything else when we start getting into things. And I was also thinking I've got the promo for everything. Maybe we play that at the end as well as at the beginning. So anyone
Okay.
coming in late gets a chance to get caught up and to see what's going on there. So,
Sure. Great.
well, Artsy, it is such a privilege to have you hanging out on my stream. This is going to be fun. You and I have conversed many times about Joseph and about typology, and both of us are, I don't know, love of the Old Testament and how God unveils Himself there that fully gets unveiled in Jesus. So,
Well, I'm often hanging out on your stream on Tuesdays, but it's not often that you get to see me. Uh, and many of my followers have never seen my face, and many people don't even know who I am. So I am a comic artist. I do have a BA in art, and I have a love for. I think it needs to be done. The I think there needs to be more biblical content in comics, and I have a love for typology. The first time that I learned about what typology was, back in 2014, I believe, my jaw hit the floor, and uh, I knew about prophecy, but I did not understand that typology was throughout the Bible, not just the books of prophecy, but throughout the lives of these people, the Old Testament figures. So,
yeah, I don't
after I learned that, I had to speed read through the Old Testament and
speed
find
read.
all the.
Yeah, speed read through Isaiah and Jeremiah. I'm just picturing that now. Speed reading through. I yeah. If anyone who's hung out in my stream knows there's no speed reading. We get sidetracked. We go slow. We stop. We ask questions. We go look up words. Uh, I don't know how I made it through the Bible in a year last year. There's not speed reading.
There was no. I was not looking up any words. I was not stopping. I just wanted to, and that that doesn't mean that I picked up all of the typology from that. And when I say speed reading, I mean it took months
Yes,
instead of
yes.
a little faster than I usually read the Bible. So, but I chose Joseph because it had the most typology in it. It has the most links to Jesus in it, and I thought I could make a story out of that. So here we are, and it's taking much longer than I expected. I'm quite humbled by the amount of time it takes,
Yeah.
amount of
Yeah.
work and time.
Hey, Subdue, good to see you. And Chris the Pan Player. Hey, welcome in. Nice to have you here.
Hey, Chris.
You know Chris? Chris hangs out in your stream. Well, then I'm glad.
Chris
I
is one of
am
my followers. Hello.
fantastic. Glad to have
Thanks
you
for
here.
showing up.
So You were talking about typology, and I've heard a really cool way, I think modern way to think about that is like a hyperlink. Like when you're making a document, you put a hyperlink in that goes to something else. That's what typology kind of is. When you come across it, it's like a hyperlink. So Joseph is this, but we're seeing it in Jesus' life. So we should hyperlink back to the story of Joseph. Or we've got Moses and we just recently were going through the feeding of the 5,000, the feeding of the 4,000. There's hyperlinks back to Moses and the people in the desert. If we think of it that way, as typologies like hyperlinks that should cause us to think about stories in the OT and things that repeat themselves over and over. You can have hyperlinks to hyperlinks kind of a thing.
Right. Yeah, my favorite example is the sign of Jonah in, I think it's either Mark 12 or Matthew 12, when Jesus says, foolish generation asks for a sign, but the only sign that will be given is the sign of Jonah, because just like Jonah was 3 days in the belly of the fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days in the belly of the earth and rise again. So, and that blew my mind. One of the things that blew my mind, continues to blow my mind.
Yeah, there's a lot more typology, and I don't think that even when we do make references like that and we make connections like that, that the church has talked about it all the time as typology. We sometimes want to downplay those kinds of things because otherwise people just start looking for it everywhere and they start seeing it everywhere and they start creating their own things. But I think part of that problem is we don't spend enough time in the Old Testament and trying to understand both the culture of the people it was written to and the time frame it was written to, because most people think history's boring. I happen to be a history nut. I like history. Now, my thing is I've never found one time period that, like, hey, I'm a Civil War buff, or hey, I'm a World War II, or I'm like just Western Civ in general, and then learning all kinds of things. I'm like just the eclectic, so I never settle in one place. It's whatever the flavor of this year is where I have my mind on. And frankly, the last 2 years has really been digging into the Jewish roots of things. And, you and I both listen to Bema podcast, Bema discipleship. It's really good at helping to uncover those. And then I've spun off from all kinds of things, from them mentioning someone else who mentions someone else who mentions, and you just start ending up down this corridor of Old Testament studies that the church hasn't talked about necessarily from a Jewish perspective, the way that the audience would have known it in that time frame.
Yeah, so I have a technical question for you. I'm going to spring this on you.
Okay.
This was not rehearsed, so you may not know the answer. So remez, I'm sure you know that term is the hyperlinking that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So is there a difference between typology and remezim? Because I have always thought that typology was an example in a prophet's life and how that paralleled Jesus' life, death.
Yeah, I think I think on some level when you're talking typology, you are looking at a person and their life. So you have Adam, who is a type, who Jesus is the second Adam. You with typology, I really think that you're right. It's about people. But if you're just doing any hyperlink, it could just be, and Isaiah said this in this passage, and so you get a hyperlink back to that passage, which isn't about his life. It's about the Jewish people and what's happening and whatever else might be in that passage. So you just get links to passages, but typology, I think, really is about individuals and their life. And another way of doing that is you have Moses, and then you have things repeated by Joshua when they're going into the land. Easy one to see is the parting of the Red Sea and the parting of the Jordan River. So you have repetition. Yeah. So then you have, did I say Joseph? Did I say the wrong name there? Joshua. You have Joshua. So Joshua,
I do that all the time.
yeah, we're thinking of Joseph, so my brain probably said the wrong word. I'm also unrealizing it. So you've got him repeating that. So it is a piece of typology, but it's also a repetition of this was an authentication that he is the chosen one of God because he did the same thing Moses did. God chose Joshua. Here's validation and verification because he did the same as the previous one, who we all accept. So some of typology is pointing to a repetition of things that happened, and some is a fulfillment of things in another way, like you brought up with the Jonah of the 3 days and 3 nights. Well, no one thought
Right.
that there was a prophecy that said 3 days and 3 nights in Jonah's life. So you sometimes need the typology to bring that forward into a fulfillment where it wasn't written as a, well, someday the Messiah is going to do this. It didn't say that. So
Right.
typology
Yeah.
looks back and says, hey, this has happened before in the people of God. And this is very similar to that, where and I can never remember all the different layers of the Remez and the Pardes and all. I'm like, they just don't make sense in my mind. I know they're all there. I mix them up. Uh, but it's those different levels and layers. Those can be anywhere in any passage that you're looking back to. But I think you're right on the typology is really about individuals' lives and the actions in their lives reoccurring in someone else's life at a future date and time, which allows for typology to be repeated again and again and again.
And the temple is a type as well. No, the tabernacle is a type in Hebrews 10. I think it goes back to talk about the tabernacle.
Yeah.
Please be a brain and look that up. uh, I'm reading the Bible in my mind. I'm not looking things up here.
Yeah, well, yeah,
My
I don't
memory is
have
not.
mine set up to look up right now because I've got so many tabs for what we're going to look at, so I'm not going to go in that direction.
Okay.
But you also, the tabernacle is a typology of the Garden of Eden.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Yes, because you've got the different markers in the Garden of
Yep.
Eden and the presence of God, which
Yep.
is in and among the people, and the two trees imagery, and you can follow all the way through the coming into from the Gentile court to the inner court that sacrifices happen, and then the presence of God in the center. So you've got even there typology, and then you go to Revelation, which mirrors the temple, and you've got Ezekiel also mirroring the temple, which are then
Yeah.
going to the heavenly realm, which Garden of Eden was a typology of the heavenly realm. So you can just keep going in circles with this sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, wait, that was a cool
Fascinating.
discussion to get us started. All right.
That's
Well,
just the
hey,
beginning.
MJ, hey, welcome in, friend. My Hebrew is and has always been horrible. God bless those who can work with that language. I wish I could. I I am just fascinated with Hebrew. I really wish I was a scholar. I make the excuse that I was a C minus English student, and in seminary we would walk around saying D equals pass. I didn't get any D's. I got some C's, and a lot of B's. But the reason I got a lot of B's was we had this really cool thing called a contract grade. And so you'd get your syllabus at the beginning of the semester, and it said, if you want an A, you need 5 papers, you need to read this amount of stuff, and you need to do all these assignments, and you have to maintain A on everything. Or you can contract for a B, which means 3 papers, less reading, so I could spend my time in the languages that were going to eat up
Right.
all my time to get C's in. So I would contract for B's and then shoot for B's in languages, and I got a few, but I didn't get any A's in languages. So, but I
Well,
I love Hebrew
I
and the
have not studied
wordplay.
any of that. I've not studied any Hebrew. I actually there is uh, a YouTube channel that has elementary Hebrew, and after 15 minutes of elementary Hebrew, my brain was fried.
Yeah, and I don't think that Hebrew really well. Greek just I struggle with Greek all the time. It was complicated, and I could reproduce the charts, and it didn't help me to understand anything. But I could, and I'm not good at it anymore. I could cite and identify words in a sentence I just had to take a lot of different time to translate and do all of that. And so I have translated the whole book of Ruth and the whole book of Jonah. Uh, I don't know where my copies are of that because it was 20 years ago. And so somewhere I've got it saved on a hard drive, what my translations of those books. And I spent a lot of time working through translating. And I did a couple in the New Testament. I don't remember which ones they were. But
the FCDPV, the Flat Cap Tapper Pastor version.
Yeah. The flat cap, the Dapper translation. Oh man, I I did in seminary with a couple of friends. We would have assignments and presentations, and I don't know which one of us came up with it, but we just decided in our presentations to put commercials in the middle of our presentations. So we would do a commercial in the middle of our presentation for the WWF Bible. That was our favorite. We would make a commercial for the WWF Bible, and Jesus would lay the smack down on Satan and weird sayings like that. And I always wanted to come up with that translation. I just thought it'd be really fun to do that. If anyone ever does that, I would love to read it.
All right.
MJ says, I did well in Greek. Hebrew, on the other hand, yikes. And I think some people go one way or the other with that. And I did better in Hebrew, understand some of it, love the different ideas of it. I'll keep silent, let you two talk on your topic. Hey, no worries, no worries. We are not only here to talk with each other, we're also here to engage in the chat. So if there are questions, there are other things. Yeah, feel free to do that, MJ. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video, which is going to introduce and promo the comic that you've been working on.
Joseph, favored son of Israel. The road to Emmaus. On the third day after Jesus' crucifixion, 2 of his disciples were going to the village of Emmaus. While they walked and questioned each other, Jesus himself came near and walked with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him.
What are we going to do now?
I thought he was the one. Why are you walking and talking so sadly?
Don't you know the things that have happened recently in Jerusalem?
What things? The things concerning the prophet, Jesus the Nazarene. The priests and our rulers crucified him.
But we were hoping that he would redeem Israel.
And now it is the 3rd day since these things happened.
Also, some of the women from our group said that he was alive.
Foolish people. Didn't the prophets write that the Son of Man had to suffer these things in order to enter into his glory? Beginning from the law and the prophets, he explained to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. This is just one of the stories Jesus could have told. Consider the story of Joseph!
Any comments to add to your intro video there?
So Luke 24 has, that's another one of my favorite, I don't know if you can call that a typology, more like a prophecy, but I used Luke 24 in order to introduce the concept, and I think it works well. The very first image that I saw that sparked this idea in me was an image of Samson, and he was both hands were on the pillars, and his head was back, and the artist put him in a position that made it look like he was crucified. I was like, oh, I get that. I totally get that. That's a typological image. So I was like, oh, I want this guitar right behind me. My plan was to put some images on the guitar And so I started drawing typological comic cover images, and as if the book of Samson had a cover to it, or the book of the shirt that I'm wearing actually there's Moses up
Well,
here.
I can show it on screen.
Oh, yeah, go ahead and show that.
It's that one, right? Or is it different? Oh, you can't see it. Sorry.
No.
It's the page
There's
4 you
delay.
sent me.
I see me standing up. Okay, here we go. So the upper left-hand corner is Moses with his arms outstretched. Then there's Jonah with his arms outstretched. And then there's Jesus, of course. And then there's Jeremiah in the cistern being pulled out.
Oh.
Used a little creative license.
Yeah, I love that.
License there. And then you can hardly see Solomon over Jesus' left shoulder. He's stopping the slaughter of the baby, and he's putting his hands out, saying, "Stop!" And then there's Samson. I've already talked about that. And Abel is being killed by Cain with his arms outstretched. There's actually a wrestling move called crucifixion.
Yep. Crucifix.
Yeah, the crucifix.
Yep.
I'm not apparently I don't know as much about wrestling as you do. I just found this by Googling, not by yada, not by experiential knowledge.
Oh, crucifix is a fun move. It's not an easy move to subdue your opponent into. You really have to have them fatigued before you can get them into that move. If they are fresh and fighting, you're wasting time and energy. You have to really beat them down first before that move works. So that's like making all kinds of like, ooh, was this an on? Because I've always just pictured like just be dead, as opposed to an engagement between the two of them that results in death. That just changes my image.
Interesting. And then there's Joshua at the very bottom with his when they're crying out, when they're breaking the. Excuse me, I'm mixing up the two stories. Joshua marching around Jericho with the Ark of the Covenant. So that was my intent with that. So that image is going to be an inside cover with the text, with the disclaimer saying this is not the Bible. Please read the real Bible. Don't get upset that this is not the real Bible. So I'm also, ever since drawing this, I had not seen The Chosen yet before. And since seeing The Chosen, I'm very, very inspired to write similar stories, similar in The Chosen vein, because they do a lot of looking back to the Old Testament in order to tell their New Testament stories.
Yeah. I've only watched a little bit of it. I haven't got into that, but I did like and appreciate. Like I said, I probably only watched like 6 episodes. I did like how they were taking their time to tell the story and not rushing each episode into because Mark goes boom, 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 boom.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like no. They're taking the time to develop the characters so that you fall in love with the characters and you watch them do those things. So I've appreciated that approach to it. So, and hey, Black Belt, good to see you. Hello, Pastor.
Hey, Black Belt.
And MJ, you need to take a skedaddle. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming by. That's all right. Appreciate you came, even if you couldn't stay the whole time. There was something else as you were talking through those things about all of these that came to mind, and now I can't remember what I was thinking to say. Are you familiar with shoot, what is it? Trying to think the name of it. I can't think of the name of it. It is a comic book Bible, is what it is.
Okay, so the two that I'm most familiar with is the Action Bible,
That's the one I'm thinking of, the Action Bible.
drawn by Sergio Cariello, and I got to meet the man. I got to talk to the man. I got to talk to him for 2 hours.
Cool.
So, thank you, God. Also, the Kingstone Bible is very extensive. That is made by multiple artists, professional artists.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the Kingstone, but I do know the Action Bible, and I've worked overseas with helping to bring the Action Bible to different places in some literature distribution, which is really helpful and crosses languages really easily to communicate. Hey, Trombone, welcome in, friend. And
Trombone Bellic.
in Guatemala, the first lady, former first lady, helped some individuals be able to get the Action Bible, the Jesus version, or the little Jesus comic alone, not the full, but the Jesus comic used to teach English to students as a 10-week or whatever it was. You come every week, you get a copy of it. You can't take the copy home unless you come all the way through the end, and then you get to take the comic home. So a former first lady helped get that in the schools of people bringing the Action Bible in to teach the story of Jesus to kids.
Awesome.
So that doesn't happen everywhere, but
Yeah.
all right. So the face of ArtsyBibleNerd in the I was gonna say in the flesh, but in the screen, in the virtual.
And the camera has not broken. The camera is still intact.
All right, so how about I start with the reading of the story? Is the running page 5? I'm just making sure I got the right page.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That is the next page.
Okay, so I'll read the story, and then we can talk about the image if you want to, or we can dig into the scenario of what's going into the story, whichever way you want to go, or however I feel led. We'll just go back and forth, and we'll take our time going through this. So,
Amen.
So this is Genesis 37, and so I'm starting in verse 2, and this is the version that Artsy gave me to follow. So, what translation is this? Do you know?
NIV.
NIV? Okay. It must be a different date than the one I had on screen, and which is pretty common. If you don't know, the electronic version is a constant updating version that they have, versus the print, which has publication dates.
I copied and pasted it 2 days ago, so
Oh,
maybe
well,
I chose the wrong.
no, it just might be a different source than I'm using too.
Okay. I think it's Bible Hub is where I got this from.
Okay. No, I'm just explaining anybody else that might be following too. If you ever run into an electronic version is different from one time you read it to the next, they sometimes are doing little tiny edits in the electronic that get changed monthly or quarterly versus a print one, which is not going to get changed for like 5 to 10 years.
Right.
So beginning at verse 2. Joseph, a young man of 17, was tending the flocks with his brothers, the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And he brought their father a bad report about them. So just before we look at what's happening in the scene, Bilhah and Zilpah are the concubines. They're not the married wife, Leah or Rachel. They're not the ones that he worked 7 years for. They're the ones that the two moms are fighting over dad's love, and I need children by you, and so that's who they are. So if there is any kind of division between the wives and a pecking order, his wife or his mom is the highest, and these two would be the lowest two. So it's interesting. It's not the sons of Leah who are here. It's just the sons of the sons of the concubines that are there. Other thing, it points out 17. We might think, oh well, he's not an adult. No, he would have been considered an adult in culture. Bar mitzvah. I don't know how long that tradition goes to being 13 exactly, but at age 13, and they've been doing this for centuries, you have a bar mitzvah where you become part of the community as an adult at age 13, and you gain more rights as that goes on. But there's the transition of childhood to adulthood. So, okay, so now we got the scene, and Joseph is running. To me, the image is really cool. Like, you can see the intent of he is gonna go get say something.
So yeah, I could not find from the text what the brothers were doing, what he was tattling on them for, but he is running to go tell Abba that the brothers are doing something, and this is how he's introduced. What you do not have is the text bubbles. So there's going to be text bubbles across above his head, with arrows going behind him, showing that the brothers are yelling at him, Joseph, where are you going?
Yeah.
Don't you dare tell Abba.
Well, and at this time, I don't believe that we've had. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe we did. I'd have to go back and look. This is where I get so disjointed at times because I'm in so many places. I'm trying to remember. Has Benjamin been born and his mom died? I think that's already happened.
Yes, it has already happened.
So, yeah, and the only other son of his mom would have been his brother Benjamin, who is younger than him. So I don't remember the age difference. I'm never good at that. But I'm also thinking here,
right,
too, what's interesting is this would have been his mom's servant. So on some level, this also might have been stepmom in a more real way of being in the same tent, of having, and I can't remember which one it is, Bilhah or Zilpah, that could have been there as well. So even those other closer half brothers, I don't know how you divide these up. They're all half brothers on some level, but yeah, that's an interesting thing too, that relationship didn't matter enough to not come and tattle on them for whatever's going on.
Right.
Okay, cool. Anything else, or we'll go on to the next page?
So artistically, the way that I imagine Joseph at this age is young Luke Skywalker, where he's whining and complaining about not being able to go to, he's whining to his dad that he can't go to, I can't remember. But he's whining and complaining.
Yeah, I like that thought of like that whiny young adolescent boy that wants what they want and trying to get.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting image.
Tosche Station. That's what I was trying to think of.
Okay. Well, I'll put the next one up and we'll move on to the next part of the story. So he brought a bad report. Continuing in verse 3. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made an ornate robe for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. So you've got page 7 and 8. So the one showing is the ornate coat, and then you've got bubbles there for the conversation. What's interesting on this part is he bore him in old age. Okay. But then there were others I thought that were, besides Benjamin, I'm trying to remember the birth order of was I wanted to say I think that Leah had other children after Joseph was born, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Anyway,
thought that all of Leah's children were born first, and then Joseph, and then Benjamin.
well,
So-
there's the connection with the bringing of the mandrake. I think it's mandrake, from the field, and I'll give you a night with him for this, and she became pregnant, and so that's why I'm thinking that there could be another one born to Leah after, but I have to go back and look. And then of course Benjamin is later too.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless I'm conflating those two, and Benjamin is the one that is. But anyway, just looking at what it says, he was born in old age to him. Well, Benjamin was after that, so why wouldn't Benjamin be the favorite?
Right.
So,
well, at the time, he didn't. Well, yeah, you're right. You're right. Good question.
The other thing is
Benjamin was born.
If we're reading this as chronological, that's where I'm coming in with the problem. Because I'm reading this as he was born in old age, and this was given at this place in Genesis, as opposed to we've had progressive stories about the birth of all of these children. Now we're getting just a story about Joseph, which could have happened in a different place back in the story. At least this intro section could have already, if we're going chronologically, already happened, but we didn't give it then because we weren't going to tell the story of Joseph. So,
right.
This
he was also the first son born to Rebecca.
Yes.
The wife that he served for 14 years for.
Yeah. But I'm just saying the coat could have been given to him before Benjamin is born.
Oh, yeah.
Even though we read already Benjamin was born, we don't have to make an assumption that in the story here, the coat giving is after Benjamin. Because it said he was born in old age, he gives the coat to him, and then maybe later has more children. And doesn't think about that. So just trying to read what the text is telling us and think through that. But
so you're saying it's not necessarily chronological?
I'm saying there's a way at which we could see it not being necessarily that this piece happens after everything we've read so far about the coat giving. So we could just be getting a reminder of events that would have already taken place as we're introing it. Like he's 17 and he's ratting his brothers out. That looks like that's one day. The next day he gets a coat. That might not be the next day. These could have been past events that we're recounting here to intro the character and the family dynamics as we get into the full story of Joseph.
Right.
So, because the biblical authors at many times are not interested in the chronology of things. They are interested in the relational things. So we don't have to assume this is, he turned 17. He only at 17 starts giving bad reports to his dad. And then at 17, dad gives him a coat. This could have, this really is an ongoing relational issue within the family dynamics, which just speaks to a whole lot of wisdom of having 4 wives is not an advantageous thing to do. It wasn't God's design from the start. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
But that's aside from your story. That's
I'm sure my wife agrees.
Yeah, your wife agrees. So does mine. Okay, so now I'm going to flip to the next one where dad is placing the coat on him and the smile on Joseph's face. And then the interesting thing to me, I'll let you talk about it, but I'll say that there's one thing that stands out from the 3 panels you have that's prominent in there, and I just want to see what you share, and then I'll ask you about it. So, what about these 3 panels of Joseph getting the coat on him?
So I'm not sure if I'm looking. Now I'm looking deeper into my own art than probably. It was just dialogue. I just want to make sure that the coat was put onto him by his father, and then hugging the coat. If you read straightforward in the English text, it doesn't show the significance of the coat, that it shows that he's the leader of the household. He's the head of the household. And the Behor, that is going to be like he's going to receive the inheritance, a greater portion of the inheritance, and his brothers would have known that. His brothers would have seen that coat and been upset. And it's not just because it's a nice coat that they don't have. It's not just because they don't have sleeves or colors, but they want their inheritance. They're rightful because they were born first.
Right, right. So, and I like how you took the time, because the coat is a significant piece. It is a moment, so to speak, of Dad's lavishing love on him, which we can read forward in the typology of how God does want to lavish his children, and he doesn't do it by the normal human things of the oldest should get everything that society says. It is a different relationship, which is why. And it's not necessarily deserving in any way, because we can see Joseph and the way he, is ratting out his brothers. So this isn't like a reward for snitching or anything like that, which would be horrible and make things even worse. And I think Dad would know that. I think this is, like you're talking about, this is significance in a different way. And the thing that I was picking up on how you drew it was like the including of a staff in there.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah, like
Yep.
that's not necessary from a standpoint of having to have him have a staff at all. I mean, yes, he's a shepherd, and we have all of that, and the staff is an image of shepherd. But you just made it really a simple staff that is in all three as well, that's going through that, and is just making me think of Aaron's staff, for one thing, and then also the way that God was with him when he was doing the things with the sheep in front of and behind, and he's passing on his knowledge of shepherding to his son here. And then the coat could almost be on one level of a graduation of, Joseph, you really get what it means to be a shepherd, that looks like a ceremony of how you do this, and then how do you signify that this is the person with the scholarly wisdom and knowledge. Well, you've got a staff there that shows that they have the capacity to do this. Like I said, I don't know if you saw all that or not in there. And then there's also, I think, one other piece. The staff reminds me that his hip, that he walks with a limp. And if the staff isn't there, my mind isn't going to the limp that he walks with. But because the staff's there, I'm going, oh yeah, this is Dad in old age. This is Dad in old age. So, yeah, Artsy is an awesome artist. Yes, Miss Jellybeans.
Hey, Miss Jellybeans. So I did, there's a movie called Joseph, and that's all it's called. And his father, Jacob, is played by... my mind is not remembering, but if I said the name, you would know. But he always has a staff in the right hand, always in the right hand, and it's like, oh yeah, of course, that makes his hip is. So the only thing that you looked very deep into that staff. The only, it's just a cane. It's just helping him to walk. That's all I.
Right, but the thing is, this is like, I have all this other knowledge of things, of the story, and that staff being there fires off all those other things visually for me. In the story itself, it's like, wow, like I said, by having, and I might not have, like, if this was just a single one panel, I don't think I'd have made those connections.
Right.
it's the three panel that the staff is here as Joseph is putting it on, and then it's in the embrace and the hug that I can
Yes,
see
yes.
the staff prominent in the picture, and then you go back to the next one and the staff's right there. So
Yeah.
it's the three panels that
Well,
drew my eyes to it.
I imagine that Jacob would want to, excuse me, Israel would want to put the coat on himself. He wouldn't want help doing that.
Yeah.
He would want to be the one to put it on him. And how would he do that if he had to manage his hip and the staff and all that? So a lot of visual research went into how do you put a coat on to somebody else, and how do you do that if you're holding I had to figure out, guess how he would do that with a staff in his hand. So
Yeah. So, I really like this page. Like this one.
awesome.
Yeah. And the thing is I mean, not that I don't like others. Like there was just like, oh my goodness, I all of a sudden saw this deep connection. Like I went to the Remez, the Pardes. I was seeing like every level of that in this page. All right, we'll go on to the next one. We're gonna get to the dream now. So verse 5. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. Oh, I guess it doesn't say a page number there. So then I'll continue the next one. He said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered round mine and bowed down to it." So this is page 9 and 10. So you've got the sheave workers out in the field. You've got a panel there with Israel and his staff again and pointing. And then I'm trying to see if there's bowing down yet, or is that the next page?
No, not yet. So this.
Okay, so yeah, you've just
Well,
got the
you go
page
ahead
of the
and,
work going on, yeah.
Yeah. So this is Jesus narrating what they're doing.
Oh,
So
okay.
The first
Okay, yep.
panel is Jesus narrating, and
So that brings us back
they're
to the
working in
Emmaus.
the background.
Yeah, the back to the Emmaus connection.
Right, yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So, and then they continue the dialogue, and Joseph is like, "These sheaves of wheat remind me of a dream I had," as if they want to hear this dream about himself. So, and they are not happy. Reuben says, I cannot remember. I don't have the script in front of me right now, but he doesn't say anything very nice. And then his father has to say, "Reuben, let him talk," and then he expounds upon the dream in the next panel, the next
Okay.
page.
Okay. Which, yeah. So you've got it with Jesus there, and then the work of the story there, and the tent in the background, and the sheaves that are there. I can't tell. Are there two tents there, or multiple?
Yes, I believe there's 2 tents.
Okay. I didn't want to.
It should be like a village, but
Yeah.
I only drew 2 tents.
Yep. Well, and there's trees there as well, so you can see that that's where they're at. They're out in the field. They're putting the sheaves there, and then you've got the close-up of the work happening, conversations, and then you got the 3 panels. Yeah, I like the dialogue there. That makes sense. And I think that's one of the things too. We don't have all the dialogue in stories.
Right.
Scripture doesn't always give us all the details that we want. The fact that we start this story at age 17 gives us some info, but it doesn't tell us, what color eyes Joseph had. It doesn't tell us how tall he was. It doesn't give us any of those details that we would ask today. So, and then the next page, you've got the pillar, or not the pillars, the sheaves bowing down to the one sheave, and then Joseph with his hands out and head upward. What is the idea there with his head upward?
So that's so I wanted to show Joseph as typology. I wanted to show that he was a type for Jesus, and I didn't feel I only wanted to do so much of that. Putting his arms out straight this way, just
Right.
to tell a dream, I didn't think would have been realistic, but I did have his palms stretched out a little bit.
Yep, I got the palms. I
And
just wasn't sure with the head back what that was.
so a lot of superheroes will, when their powers coming out onto them,
Okay.
they're,
Okay.
you know,
Now I'm
they
getting
put this-
it. Now I'm getting it.
the power is in me, and I'm so.
Yeah. So it's
So every time that he recounts a dream, even Pharaoh's dream in the next chapter, he's going to be in that pose.
okay. So that's going to be brilliant. The repetition of the pose is so that your mind, like you're putting a hyperlink back to the previous one with putting in the same pose, and that's where my mind wasn't going to superhero. That's why I couldn't make the connection to it.
Right.
That you were bringing another image that people who read comics would have known, that this is the display of I'm receiving the power. Yeah, that's cool. And I really like your the sheaves bowing down, because I think most of them I've seen are all like they're all far away. Like they're all out in the field, like would be natural. Like, oh, the sheaves fell over. They're a long ways away. You wouldn't have them all together. Like this, they came and surrounded him. Hey, Sunshine, welcome in. That image there of they're right at his feet, worshiping, takes me to the New Testament with people bowing at Jesus' feet, and constantly at his feet, kind of an image. Which, like I said, most of the time I've seen people try to do this. It's like the big field like we had in the last panel, and they just have them bowed down there and one standing up, and you got to do a whole bunch of interpretation. I don't need to do any interpretation on this to figure out worship, which is why they're not cool with the story.
Yeah, I didn't think that deep into it. I do remember Joseph, King of Dreams. I do remember the Joseph movie. And I think you're right. All the sheaves were far away and just falling down, just falling over.
Right. It just looked like the wind blew them down and one stayed upright. So this doesn't look like that.
Right.
This, wow. Well, you know what? And the thing is I don't think that we always do everything with the intent, knowing that it's there. We are just divine inspired at times, and then later can realize what God inspired within us that we didn't know at the time. So the fact that several of these you're going, I didn't see that, I didn't know that, I don't think you needed to.
Yeah. It's also a difference between interpretation of a picture tells 1,000 words, right?
Correct.
So it doesn't necessarily tell the 1,000 words that I expected it to
Well,
say.
yeah.
So
yeah. Well, and the other thing is somebody else is going to interpret this differently than I am. I'm bringing
Right, yes.
I am bringing my perspective into this and my connection, and I'm seeing it differently than maybe you intended. Which reminds me of a couple of times I've bought art, and I'm talking to the art dealer about them, and then so what about this one speaks to you? And then I would explain it, and several times my wife is cringing, like just listening to my explanation of it. One of them that I have that I really love, that she just was like wanted to apologize for how dumb her husband was. And it's Little Red Riding Hood, who is pouring milk out to a wolf pup. And then there's wolf faces hiding all throughout the scenery of the leaves and everything. And I'm telling the story about how she's poisoning the wolf pup, and she's just mortified. She's completely mortified at my explanation of why it speaks to me. And I see all these hidden faces of wolves that are watching the carnage that's going to happen. And they're so concerned for their offspring and all this. And there's a log in the background that I think is mom that's dead. And she's just going, oh my goodness. And then he says, well, I guess that makes sense. The title of it is Flippant Benevolence. And it's like, oh my goodness, my wife could not see the sinister of what was happening in the art, which is truly what the artist intended. My wife just thought this was benevolence. Oh no, it wasn't. It wasn't. So.
Interesting.
Yeah. Hey Galaxy. Hey Sprint East Fool. Yo yo. Welcome in. Welcome in. We are.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, we're going through Artsy's. Do you call it a comic? Is that what you want it called?
I'm calling it a comic.
Okay, I just want to make sure I what the artist wants it called. Okay, so we're going through the pages of the comic that so far we're in Genesis 37. So I'll move on to the next page and we'll continue the story. So we're in verse 8 now of Genesis 37. His brother said to him, do you intend to reign over us? See, I was reading that back into the other image there, that the bow down piece, the reign over. Will you actually rule us? And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. See, and I'm connecting the hate here back to the hate earlier with the coat, which I think is why it's in the same chapter, because you're seeing the growing of the hatred, even if linear or timeline, it happened months or years prior to this. We don't want to lose that hatred building within them, the hatred building within them, and this chapter is about their hatred being multiplied and growing exponentially as we go through the story. So by linking all the events in one place, we don't miss any of that hatred. I don't know if these questions, I know Greek does this. I'm trying to remember if Hebrew does, with the intended answers in these of the rhetorical nature, but you can read the dripping, just no, never. Like, little bro, you ain't better than us. We are never going to do what your dream is suggesting. Why would you even tell us that?
Right. You got a tip of the hat.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that. Tip of the cap, Galaxy.
Okay.
Tip of the cap.
I didn't notice that.
And Sprint Eastful redeemed favorite Bible verse. We'll go ahead and put that in there, Sprint East, and we'll pull it up at some point. So, okay, so in the panel, you've got, again, the sheaves there, and the gathering, and then one of the brothers not really happy with Joseph, throwing something at him, and then you got 3 panels again, and then back to Jesus and Israel at the last panel with the sheaves behind. So what's going on with these?
So in my version of the story, Joseph chose this time to tell, this time when their backs are hurting and they've just done all this hard labor. See, that was my dream. Aren't you happy for me? And Judah throws a rock at him. And he's not very good with people skills. He's 17 years old. So Judah explains why that'll never happen. And Reuben is the bald man behind him.
Yep.
Reuben is the oldest, so he has a real reason. He has the most to lose over this. And then Jesus in the last panel says that Israel kept this into his heart, remember this in his heart. So there is a mistake there because this Israel keeping it in his heart is supposed to come after the second dream, but I put in after both dreams.
Oh,
So
but I don't see anything wrong with that.
Twice?
Yeah. Well, you have the repetition of Mary pondering these things in her heart and pondering these things in her heart, the repetition of that. So the having a panel that is going to foreshadow a future panel, and that's fine. I don't see an issue with that. So it's interesting that you put in there the throwing of a rock. I mean, that's not in the story.
Oh, right.
So when do you make a decision about adding things in to convey the hatred, which I think that's what that's doing, that's in the story, and when do you decide to not do that? How do you make those decisions?
Comic books are all about action, so you want to put as much action instead of talking into the comic book. So how can I actively show that his brother is angry with him is by doing some kind of violent act. So I picked Judah being the most angry, the most the Lion of Judah being the most ferocious.
Yep. Well, and later on in the story,
so,
he's the one I think that's pushing for all of the getting rid of brother. I think Judah's the prominent one. So to have him already doing action makes sense to pick him and identify him. And then also to have Reuben here as the one trying to speak calmness. Though he does have the most to lose, he is the oldest and he's supposed to be caring for his brothers. He is fulfilling the role that he's supposed to in this throughout the story. Well, this part of the story.
Later, Reuben tries to get him out of the cistern.
Yep.
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Doesn't know. Anyone doesn't know. All right. Sprint East said Exodus 15:6 as favorite Bible verse. So, your right hand, O Lord, glorious in power, your right hand, O Lord, shatters the enemy. Wow, that's a cool verse. I'd have to go look at the full context. I don't off the top of my head remember what's going on in 15. I believe when we get to Exodus 17 is when Jethro shows up. So this must mean this is within the going out into the desert. So it's either probably in the section of the Passover or the exiting out of Egypt would be my guess. So, yeah, your right hand, O Lord, which, yes, the right hand.
Oh, yeah, I think that's...
Yeah, the right hand, the stretched out arm, the hand that acts, which gets repeated all throughout Scripture, where you don't have the short arm that can't act, and the right hand is the hand of power, which, by the way, too, I think we'd mentioned, too, the holding the staff in the right hand, because right is righteousness, left is sinister. Doesn't come in the Hebrew, it comes in the Latin later, but it's still the same idea of what you do with your right or your left.
So Sprint East, is that from the Song of Miriam after they exited? Exodus? After they got out? No response.
Well, it might take a second. I'm gonna try to look it up.
I'm guessing that it's from the Song of Miriam.
Exodus 15. Yeah, I don't want to try to look it up on my computer and pull up another window with more going on. Yes, you're right. It's the Song of Miriam. Good memory on you. Good memory on you. So I knew the setting, and it's before the waters of Mara. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, the connection there of singing a praise of this magnitude and then complaining at the waters of Mara and Elam right afterwards. Wow. That's cool. That's cool. Unplug 'em channel, great channel. I saw it on a YouTube video. Oh, Unplug 'em channel, great channel. Okay, I have not watched that one. I don't. I used to do a lot of YouTube watching. Now I'm more into podcast listening while I'm doing other things. And I used to laugh at my son, who would always watch YouTube videos at double speed, and now I'm actually with some podcast going at 2.5 speed. I'm like, I keep
Wow.
pushing the speed at which I listen to podcasts so that I can consume more. So,
Wow.
but I haven't done a lot of YouTube watching lately. I got a whole list of podcasts I'm trying to get caught up. Like I want to say 6 new ones in May that I started listening to, and they've got years of backlog. So I am trying to binge through as fast as I can and get caught up. And then there's a couple that I dropped for the last year as I listened to new ones. I need to go back and get caught up. So I got a long list of things, but I'm always open to new ones. So okay, so I think that's where we are. Yeah, and I love the explanation of trying to show the hatred without using words. And boy, does that totally does. That seems like a brother response. Totally. You had to refresh 3 times, internet acting up. Okay, I'm not getting any notices on my side that says anything's going on, which is one reason I've tried to limit how much I've got up and going. So, okay, I'll go to the next page and go to our text. Oops, caps. Oh, no worries. Yeah, it happens. Page 13 and 14. So this is now verse 9. Then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. Listen, he said, I had another dream, and this time the sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing down to me. Okay. One of the things, just thinking through this, aside from the art, like, your brothers were mad and outraged you got a coat. Your brothers are mad and outraged you tell them about your dream. Dude, keep your dreams to yourself. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, do you just, like... But I also remember what it was like to be a 15, 16, 17-year-old boy. And boy, would I have been the one that said, I can't wait to tell you the dream I just had. Oh, I could totally picture that, not thinking through the, hey, you're going to hate me even more. The, hey, I'm justified. Let me tell you why. I had another one. So I can see it. And maybe that's the reason why it tells us he's 17 when it starts. So that we can understand his lack of social awareness, his arrogance in this, his lack of maturity in choosing to do these things and to share these. It's more about him and his excitement over himself that he's putting out. I don't know. I'm just wondering out loud there, as I have always wondered about why would you do this? But then if I'm honest with myself, I can say, oh, I know why you would.
Yeah, right.
So, high 90s here, just got home from work. Yeah, we didn't have high 90s. I think we had mid 90s today. Does talk to us in normal or lucid dream? Oh, does talk to us in normal or lucid? Yeah, does God talk to us in normal or lucid dreams? Sprint Fool East Fool asks. And I think that's a really interesting question, Sprint East, that I can't say I fully have an answer to. What I can speak to is I know some Christians who share stories about God speaking to them in dreams and God doing it on more than one occasion. What I don't know and understand is when and how those happen, and is God planting the dream in there for us to know that it happens, that it's intentional on God's part, or is it our connecting with God in our study of Scripture and other things that causes our mind to do that, and the Holy Spirit uses it to unveil? I don't have an answer or a theology around it. All I can say is I know people who give experiences and talk about that. And I also have, upon occasion, like I think I dreamed last night about us doing this today. But that was because we were planning on it. We were talking about it and doing those things. My other thing is if I don't wake up and immediately tell someone what I dreamed or write it down, I lose that and I don't remember it. I think unless you can point to it meaning something and do that right away, that maybe it's not of God. Maybe it's pepperoni pizza from Talking Back. I don't know the difference, and I'm not saying that to belittle anyone who thinks it is. I'm saying I think in the same way that speaking in tongues requires interpretation, if God is speaking to you in a dream, it needs to be clear enough that you interpret it, or it needs to be something that you're clear God spoke to you that you need to wrestle with, and you'll wrestle with it until God reveals it, if that makes sense.
Doesn't it say in Acts that your young men will dream, from Joel 2?
Yeah.
Your young men will dream dreams.
Yep. Your young men will dream dreams, and your old men, I'm trying to remember what it is. I'm not good with all of those quotes. Young men or old men, young men dream dreams.
I could look at that.
That's a great question to really, though. I mean, I really like that question because we're talking about dreams. Vision means seeing revelation, though. Yeah, I get that. In the last day, God says, I will pour out my spirit on people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will have visions, and your old men will have dreams. That's what it is. It's young men with vision, old men with dreams, and sons and daughters are prophesying. So when you say meaning revelation, though, are you meaning specific revelation that should be shared with the body of Christ globally is what you mean by revelation, or just it is God revealing himself to you in a specific way? Sprint East Fool. I'm just trying to clarify there, but I don't think that that's a good question now. I'd have to wrestle with that on some level. Yes. Oh, seeing the future. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if all dreams had to do with seeing the future, but these particular dreams of Joseph do. So that's a great question. I don't know that I have an answer about the idea of visions and dreams being a prediction of future events. I'm not sure how to deal with that. It's not something that I run into a lot. I'd be more open to that if someone in a third world country was telling me that than I would someone in North America. But that's my skepticism.
I think God can. It's not beyond
Correct.
him to make that happen. But does it happen often? I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have an answer to that either. And I think some of it is, listening to the stories of people who share about those things. What are the circumstances around it? What is the result that happens after the dream? And then how the frequency of that happens. So I love this dialogue. I didn't think about that coming in here and to talk about Joseph having dreams. And thinking about what does that say for us today? Okay, so we've got the next one, and you've got the panel of him sitting around the fireplace, and then you've got the panel with the sheep, and then Joseph. So did we miss one? Did I have it out of order here?
So this is where they're around the fire,
Yep.
and he's outside, and the stars remind him of his dream about stars.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's
Okay, so the
where,
sheep is supposed to be outside. That's why and so the stars.
right, yes.
Okay. That was a piece I was
So
missing is the stars in there.
we're looking through the tent out into the outside.
Yeah.
So, and then they have words with him about these dreams, and Joseph once again, Israel once again says to let him talk, and Joseph is about to explain his dream, and then we go into the next panel, and it's the same image of him standing in the same position.
Yeah.
About another dream.
Okay, so that's where you're bringing in the sun, moon, and stars is in the next one, the next panel there.
Right.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so he does have the hands, and yeah, the palms up really does speak to that, image of Jesus showing his hands, and the evidence of the crucifixion. And I don't know that you can fully do this of the idea of the sun, moon, and stars worshiping, but the connection of the sun, moon, and stars, if we take a step back from the dream for a minute and them representing, the family, the sun, moon, and stars would have been the heavenly realm. And so the heavenly court would have worshipped God. So, is this metaphor pushing so far as to, if you're thinking about this, as dad and brothers, the heavenly realms are going to bow down to you, bro? Seriously, man? What are you talking about? You're going to be, no. It was bad enough when you thought it was us, but now the sun, moon, and stars. I think we get some interpretation, if I remember, but I want to pull that in before we do, that the sun, moon, and stars would have been seen as the heavenly realm and heavenly beings, and throughout Scripture, there's often a metaphor or a connection to the heavenly beings being represented by sun, moon, and stars.
I did not think of that. Thank you so much for mentioning that.
Yeah. So, okay, then we're on to the next page, 15. When he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" And his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Okay, so, and that's why I thought it was important to mention that before we move on, because now the interpretation that Jacob is bringing is that the sun, moon, and stars are the family. But we also have the image of Israel being the son of God, and the connection of Israel and the people of Israel being the chosen of God. So we could see maybe Jacob making that connection. We also could have Jacob making the connection, or Israel, I'm using Jacob because going back to him finding Bethel and the angels ascending and descending would be going to the heavenly realm. And then him wrestling with the angel who is God and being touched in the hip. So Jacob has a real connection to the spirit realm. And so to have him see in the story the sun, moon, and stars, the spirit realm being the family, that's interesting on some level. I don't know what to do with that.
Okay, that's deeper than I ever imagined.
Well, that's just the text. That's not all of your stuff. That's just what I'm getting out of the text. So, right, and then your panel, you've got Israel again, and then Joseph, it looks like, telling the story, and then Reuben getting upset this time, and then Dad at the end, and then the flock again in the background there.
Right. So Reuben, once again, has the most to lose because he's the firstborn. So he's the one who's confronting uh, first, well, the first panel. I shouldn't skip the first panel. Uh, Israel says, "Are you serious? Are you sure?" So, and then the second panel is Joseph saying, "I didn't say it. I dreamed it." So it's not what my words, it's my dreams.
Yeah, well, and there's
So
a connection too that while we were having the debate, hey, Dave, good, welcome in, Pettit, good to see you. Well, we were having the conversation about what do dreams mean today and what that might mean and how we interpret them. In ancient times, there is a big connection of dreams and interpreting dreams and visions, and those being a connection to the spirit realm. And I learned this not too long ago that if you were to put your head on a rock, which is what Jacob did,
yeah.
you are intentionally trying to have a dream that the gods are going to speak to you. So, in these two occasions, it doesn't tell us in the text. Was Joseph putting his head on a rock when he was having these dreams? Was he out tending the flock, sleeping on a rock so that he would dream dreams? And now he's using those dreams, and his dad knows the power of dreams, which I think is what we get here at the end, with his dad kept the matter in mind, because his dad knows that God speaks to people in dreams, and he's spoken to me in dreams, and God has done the things he said in the dreams.
Or did Joseph learn the rock trick from his dad?
Right.
And say, "Oh, I'm gonna try that."
Right, right. Does dad teach them that? Is this common cultural knowledge? I don't know. I don't know. But interesting discussion there that I didn't even think about when we were going to go do this. This is this is the fun stuff when you don't just rush past to what's the next thing in the story. You have these great kinds of things that, you know what? The text doesn't tell us that Joseph was sleeping on a rock. I have never thought that before in my whole life. And now, like, you know, you're saving up questions for heaven. Like, Joseph, were you sleeping on a rock? Were you doing that? What if I did that? Would that work? Should I go try that? I'm not planning on sleeping on any rocks. I'm just, you know, I like my pillow.
How smooth is this rock? How jagged is this rock?
Oh my goodness, yeah. Not gonna be my thing. All right. Okay, so now on to page 16 and 17. Verse 12 and 13. Okay, so now his brothers had gone to graze their father's flocks near Shechem, and Israel said to Joseph, "As you know, your brothers are grazing their flocks near Shechem. Come, I am going to send you to them." "Very well," he replied. Okay, so this is just straightforward. Brothers are out doing things, and little brother's going to get sent out. I'm just, like, my mind is going, what does Shechem mean again? I don't remember. This is one of those things, like, I look these up all the time. I wish my brain would keep them. The problem is, we don't talk about these often enough for my brain to remember them from one time looking them up to the next.
You look up a lot of them as well.
I know. Well, that's another thing, too. I look up so many that I don't remember everything. The word meaning Shechem. Part, portion is what it says. Part or a portion. Okay. So, I don't think there's much hidden in the meaning of that. It's just a place. So.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got Dad there with the panel, and the staff is in the left hand.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Pay no attention to what you see behind this curtain. But Joseph has to help him to get up. With so
Oh, okay. Is that what he's doing there? He's helping him to get up. So I see the arm
right.
on the right arm there. So okay, that makes sense. And then the conversation,
So
and then the both of them with their arms on the staff.
yeah. So and then he's explaining in the bottom left-hand corner what happened with wrestling with the angel. So this is backstory. This is
Oh,
uh,
cool. Cool. So what
so
we were just talking about with the dreams that Jacob had, you're putting it in here. Cool.
yes, exactly. So um, and then there's a little joke because I imagine that Jacob has told this story many times, and the middle panel at the bottom is him starting to tell the story, and then Jacob is finishing his sentence, and uh, the corner panel says, "Oh, you've heard that before, have you?" Yes, yes, Dad, many times. Brag again about you wrestling with the angel of God all night long until he blesses you. So, uh, so it's good to have. The reason I put in that joke is because you have to learn to like Joseph. The audience has to like Joseph.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Hey, welcome in, Amped. Good to see you.
hello. So if you see, I watch a lot of Iron Man movies. Tony Stark is not supposed to be a very likable person.
Right, right.
Uh, he's a drunkard. He's a womanizer. These are things that you don't. You know, these are not espoused qualities, but he tells a lot of jokes, and people like him because he tells jokes. Uh, so that's one of the things you have to do with your hero is to make them likable.
Yeah, yeah. And so far, he's coming across as this. This is my language, arrogant punk, and
Yeah, exactly.
and it's like, yeah, I'm not interested. Oh, Miss Jellybeans, you got to go back to work. Okay, I'll keep this on and get it on the phone if I can. Okay, yeah, yeah. You better go check on that. But I
Hi, Miss
appreciate you being
Jellybeans.
here, Miss Jellybeans. Thanks. Um, this is one of my complaints in some of the uh, attempts to just take a female character, and I love the idea of female characters, but to make them the lead, you make them unlovable. You don't take the time, not everyone, but very
Mm,
often they just give you this power. They give you this, all of this, like Joseph's story starts like, why would I love Joseph? I don't have a care about it, Joseph. There's no struggle. There's no other. You're getting the struggle here with his brothers, but if it's his own problem, it's his own problem, its own making. I don't care. I'm not invested in him yet. Why would I be? And often you need these other little pieces to make them three-dimensional characters, to make them draw me into why do I care about this person at all, which I think one of the best examples is Peter Parker of
ah,
the wrestling with I have power and what do I do with it? And when I make poor decisions, other people suffer and I don't know when to make the right decision I should have done. And when I didn't choose to act, so it hurt someone. And you get this wrestling with him and you love him because it feels real. And I don't think that always when they're thinking of some let's place a character for gender or race or whatever in the spotlight because we need those, and I agree we do. They fail
yeah,
to take the time to develop the character so we love them.
yeah. I think The Chosen is that's the reason that I've learned so much about story writing from The Chosen is that you don't just see the miracle, you see the the backstory behind the miracle, and then it makes you realize, like the enormous catch of fish, uh, made such a huge impact economically.
Oh,
They
yeah.
put Peter in such a position that he really needed to catch any fish. And then he caught 0 fish. And then Jesus shows up and he catches all the fish.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
uh, so that is what makes it emotional. And that is my goal. That's what I'm trying to do with a little bit of backstory.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. And like, I love the story of the wrestling. I mean, there are 2 sports, maybe 3, that are mentioned in scripture. Wrestling is the first
Ah,
one and the oldest sport. You have running, and you can look at that in different ways. Running to win the race to get the prize, and you have maybe boxing where it says I beat at the air. So you might have shadow boxing as a third sport. That's it. That's it. The biblical sports are running and wrestling. That's it. Everything else is non-biblical.
wow. Okay. No baseball.
No, there's no baseball. No.
Well, there were left-handed slingers from left-handed.
Oh yeah, yeah. The was it Benjamin or was it Dan? I think it was Benjamin. I think it was Benjamin. It was the left-handed slingers. I could be wrong. Okay, so
anyway,
on to the next one. If you need to go at some point, let me know.
You talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh,
We didn't set a time of how long we were going, so.
How about 7 o'clock?
That sounds good to me.
Okay.
Okay, so
The next one.
we are now on page 18 and we're on verse 14. So he said to him, "Go and see, bum, 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 see if all is well with your brothers and the flocks, and bring back word to me." Then he sent him off from the valley of Hebron. Oh, and I want to go look up Hebron. I'm not going to, though. So he tells them where they should be, and then he sends them off, and Hebron must be right by Shechem. The valley of Hebron must be there. I'm not good with my geography. I get them all mixed up without a map in front of me. So,
Actually, I looked it up. It is a 3 days walk to Shechem. Shechem.
okay.
So, well, I'll get there when I get there.
Oh, sorry. He's sending him.
Panel,
they're in the valley of Hebron, and he sends them to Shechem. That's where I was getting it wrong.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So with this page, there's a lot of.
Oh wait, you know what? I missed page 17 from the previous one. I didn't see we had 2 pages. So I back with the grazing near Shechem and going to send you. This must be more backstory. Page 17 with a bunch of slaying of people that's taking place.
All right, so this is he's explaining why he can't trust the sons of Leah. He's explaining that when
Hey, Temple Snail.
When the sons of Shechem took the daughter Dinah.
Oh, Dinah. That's why Shechem is. Ooh.
So he's explaining, I can't trust your brothers because when Dinah was taken and raped, they tricked them into getting circumcised, and they slayed all the people of Shechem. And the bottom frame is, and then, not even, if that's not all, Reuben slept with my concubine, so I need you to go check on them. And so here is my little question for you. My question is, why did Israel send only the sons of Leah to Shechem, even though shepherding is supposed to be women's work, correct?
It often is. women's work. But before we get into that, we have all of these stories of Abraham being a shepherd and
Oh,
Lot being a shepherd. And so uh, what you end up with is usually the youngest, which you get David doing a shepherd later on, and you get
right.
daughters doing it. You often, so I think on some level, you start historically with it being one role, and if you only had sons, you sent sons to do it. As you start to get settled in the land, there are more valuable things for men to do than to watch sheep. And shepherding doesn't require masculine strength in order to do. And so you
Right.
start to send those who are physically capable. What do you need to be physically capable? To walk, to lead, to fend off a wild animal. Well, the staff helps you do that. So
Okay.
I think that's some of it. You have historically Abraham being a shepherd and Isaac being a shepherd and Jacob being a shepherd and his sons are shepherds, and we don't get till later women being the role primarily of shepherds. So, but I'd have to go do more
Well,
historical background to say more.
so my theory, uh, based on, I've not seen this anywhere else, so take this with a grain of salt, take it with a shaker of salt, uh, is that they had already become a stench in the nostrils of the Shechemites,
Yep.
and that's why they had to run away from Shechem. And uh, so apparently the only grazing land worth sending your sheep to is in Shechem. So you need your strong, able-bodied sons to fend off any Shechemites. Uh, and you don't want to send your women there because they've already been uh, plundered. They've already been raped previously. So
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense, and that then reading back into the story of Dina, is it Dina or Dinah? I'm trying to remember. Um,
Americans say Dinah. You say
okay,
Dinah, I say Dina.
okay. Anyway, when that story happened, maybe she was tending the sheep. We don't get the stories of women tending the sheep until we get to Exodus. In
Hmm.
Exodus is when we have women showing. I guess we do have one, maybe, if you think of Rebecca coming out to water, you maybe could go in that direction. Or you've got, I guess, you've got the daughters of Laban, Rachel and Leah, who are there. So we do get a
Yeah.
few, but there's also always men who are there too. And the men who are shepherding are almost always marginalizing the women who are shepherding.
Hmm.
So you've got
As
Joseph,
men do.
or sorry, not Joseph. You got Jacob who meets his wife, who's the shepherdess, and you have Moses who meets his wife, who's a shepherdess. So we do have
Right.
prominence of women who are shepherds, but we also have the male counterparts who are too. So it's almost a trade that doesn't require gender of some kind, and you give the task to whoever's capable or who's able at the time. But I like your thought of maybe because they're going to Shechem, it's the strongest who are going there because you need to be on alert and aware. I'd never thought of that because of what you boys did. I also think, and
And
when
now you're
we,
going to pay for it. Now
yeah, and when we
you're
read
going to.
through this, there are several times where I think Jacob fails to act. And when the story got reported, he fails to act in the way that he should, and his sons take an act, and it is inaction, which is also going back to typology of Adam when he fails to act, and other times when people fail to act. That the world goes wrong when the person who knows the righteous thing to do chooses not to act righteously. There are consequences that happen, and we have to live generationally with consequences of people that fail to act. The problem often is, like, we don't often know the right thing to do. We know we should act, but we're not always knowing the right action that'll get us the right outcome until hindsight that I can look at Jacob and say you should have acted because when you didn't, your sons did. And later on, when David doesn't act and Absalom chooses to act, he's reenacting what the sons did here, and going after and avenging their sister. That's what happens with David's sons. One violates his sister. It's the same story retelling itself again, and the father does not act, and then the sons act inappropriately in taking vengeance, and it causes family problems. You had no idea how to say that place, Sunshine?
I looked it up before the stream. Strong's H.
Yes.
Shechem.
Shechem. I like doing those accents like that, like Shechem, but I can't do it consistently. Okay, so I did the wrong. We missed that slide, so we got that one back, and I already read the text of him sending him away, and so he's there with the staff, and he's giving him whatever he needs for the journey. He's receiving it, and then he's heading on the journey.
Yeah, so at the end of this, like I said, I really should have the script in front of me, so I remind. But my thought behind this page is like Uncle Ben, the last words that he said to Peter Parker. So.
Oh, wow. Love that thought.
This is sending off the son to go to Shechem in order to take care of what he needs to do, and he will never see him again. So it's not Uncle Ben that dies this time. It's going to be the son who's going to be thought to be dead.
Well, and then there's the sending out there of that, but there's the where this really starts the hero's journey. Everything before this is the backstory of what's happening and setting up everything, and now the hero's journey begins. Which also I'm just thinking of too, by the image of Shechem there, of the place where violence took place and violence was repaid with violence, is a violation of righteousness, and he's had a pattern of reporting when the brothers do unjust things. And so we're sending the righteous one to go investigate what the unrighteous, proven unrighteous brothers in the past are up to. Ooh.
Go and report to me.
Yeah.
That's what he says.
Yep. Yeah, bring word back to me. Yep. Cool. All right. On to the next slide. And page 19. And we're in verse 15. When Joseph arrived at Shechem, a man found him wandering around in the fields and asked him, "What are you looking for?" He replied, "I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are grazing their flocks?" "They have moved on from here," the man answered. "I heard them say, 'Let's go to Dothan.'" Okay, so then your panels, he's looking around. Oh, you got a bunch of, or a merchant caravan, maybe some foreshadowing there, in a couple of panels. And
I meant that to happen.
I love. So what's really cool on this, like, you've got the broken panels in the center with the top and bottom being the I'm there and then I'm turning to go somewhere else, and the positions of them switching, and then the guy telling him the story in the middle there. Is there more in the middle piece that I'm not seeing?
Because it's outside, I wanted to show openness, and there are not very many enclosed spaces in the story, so I did want to show openness, and yet I wanted to sequentialize the story. So the window in the middle is how I chose to do that. So this is the man from Shechem,
Yep.
and he says that your brothers are not here. I saw them say, "Let's go to Dothan," and Joseph is not happy about that because he already walked 3 whole days in the hot sun to find them here at Shechem, and he says they're not here, and he walks away in a huff. So this is where the anger builds. The anger starts building in Shechem when he reaches them in Dothan. Dothan, not sure how to say, but so that's what's happening in my mind.
Okay. Got that. Now I'm trying to. There we go. Page 20, and we're still the second half of verse 17. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them near Dothan, but they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. "Here comes that dreamer," they said to each other. "Come now, let's kill him and throw him into these cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams." So I think here we had the progression, like I was trying to point out, has culminated, and opportunity is presenting itself, and everything is elevated there. But what's striking, they saw him at a distance. Yeah. I really feel like Jesus picks that phrase up in the story of the man with 2 sons. We call it the prodigal son. But I think Jesus picks that phrase up. I would love to, and I haven't done this, because it requires going from Greek to Hebrew and back and forth and all of that. But I just feel like that phrasing there is in that story of he saw at a distance and he ran to meet him. Here, the brothers saw him at a distance and they plotted against him. And in the other story, it's reversed the other way. But that's what my brain does with language. It's not part of this story, but I think Jesus picks it up, and we're talking typology that the seeing at a distance would lead me to think. But the other thing is they went to Shechem, and they were on alert perhaps, and decided to move on. And they maybe are still on alert because the people from Shechem might be coming. So they've got a guard set up that's keeping alert. And you know what? You can see someone and know their walk from a long distance. I don't think we give as much credit to that you could see someone from far away and know who it is by the way that they are carrying themselves. And they know it's their brother. And they start plotting long before he even shows up. So, and then your panels, you've got the sheep and, oh, I think I zoomed in. Him coming, and then seeing the cistern there, and the conversation. Oh, the fists. Oh, the fists. I like that.
Yes. So the first panel is seeing him in the distance, and they say, "Here comes that dreamer, Joseph. What are we going?" And the second panel, Simeon is saying, "What are we going to do about Joseph?" "Well, I'll tell you what we do," says Judah. "We kill him." "We kill him, yes."
Yay!
And Reuben says, "What? No, let's not do that." So, yes, thank you for picking up on the fists.
Oh yeah, the fist just like, yeah, that's fantastic. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not that. Oh! Did you do that intentionally?
What's that?
Did you pick 7 fist raised intentionally?
Oh. Not that intentionally. I picked. There are 10 brothers, so I had to make sure that the faces that are not showing had to have fists. That were counted.
I'm just picking up on 7 of the totality of the brothers being in agreement to
totality, yes,
to do that. I like finding those things, and sometimes you can overdo that. I know you can. Like, I can look for it in
Right.
places it's not there. I admit that. But at times it's like, ooh, that's really a cool notice. Does it mean something? Is the question. Maybe it does,
Right.
maybe it doesn't. But if you don't notice, then you miss it every time.
Yeah.
I was looking at your trees out in the distance in your mountain there, and there's a couple that look like letters, like you were trying to hide some words in
No.
there. I can almost make out the word dream or dreamer.
Nope, not trying to do that.
Okay, okay,
Was not trying to do that.
okay. I like that's me reading too much, but a couple of it looks like a EA next to each other, so my brain filled in the rest of it.
Uh-huh.
So
Nope.
okay, next panel. Page 21, verse 21. When Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue him from their hands. Let's not take his life, he said. Don't shed any blood. Throw him in this cistern here in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him. Reuben said this to rescue him from them and to take him back to his father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the ornate robe he was wearing, and they took him and threw him in the cistern. The cistern was empty, there was no water in it. And that is such an interesting phrase that we just go right past. Because if they came here to find grazable land, the cistern is empty, which means there has not been rain for a long time.
Yeah.
This is not the place they should be bringing their flocks. There probably is very minimal amount here for their flocks to get by on if the cistern is empty. So
Another question I have is, in Hebron, do they often have to make a long trip? I mean, sheep eat daily, right? So that must mean that they ran out of foliage in Hebron, and they had to take the sheep somewhere else.
yeah. The only other thing that it could mean is they got here, there was water in it. They watered all of their flocks. They took all the water for themselves out of the cistern, and now it is empty. It could be a mud pit down there as opposed to dry. Yeah. So either they arrived and they consumed everything because they've been here a while and they've drained it, or they went to a region that doesn't have it. We don't know. But there's significance in the cistern being empty because now it can be a place to store someone.
Right.
Versus
Exactly.
if there's water in there, it's not necessarily. And I don't know always because there's different ways to make a cistern to be used. So I don't know which style this is. You would have cisterns that would be below your house. And then you would just store the water, collect the water under your house. Or you'd have ones that'd be communal. This seems like it's one that was created to gather water from some way for your flocks to be able to have. So, but the stripping of the robe is an interesting thing. Looking forward to Jesus having his garments stripped.
Yes, exactly.
So I've got your panels here and the arguments that are happening and the pointing to the cistern. So this looks like Reuben bringing the idea. Is that Reuben? No, that's not Reuben in the first panel. He's in the second panel.
Right.
So is that Judah in the first panel saying, let's kill him, and then...
Yep.
Okay.
Reuben is the bald one.
Yep.
And he says, let's not kill him. And these are 3 other brothers who are, these are, I'm trying to remember who I named. This is Dan and Issachar and Simeon.
Okay.
I think. And so they're arguing with each other. I'm just trying to show that all the brothers are there. I'm trying to show.
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of hard to make dialogue with 10 characters.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So you count concentrate on 3 of the brothers.
Yep.
And but then there is Reuben at the bottom saying, let's put him in the cistern and teach him a lesson that way.
Yeah, yes, trying to sanitize the action they want to take. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yep. But the middle panel, I mean, the rage in the hands there. The rage in the hands, like I just like he wants to put those hands around his brother's neck. Which like, oh. That's yeah, and the other brothers are just as angry there with the the arms puffing out, the puffed chest there. That's really cool. Okay, you didn't. We've got 2 more.
So I'm still in the middle of drawing this one, the last one we just talked about.
Yep.
So I do have sketches for future panels. So
then we'll have to, won't we, with a nice pounding of the fist there with brothers in agreement and a conversation. I don't know if that's going to be Reuben on the top telling him, hey, the other, or if that's the agreeing with and other conversation, or is this coming back after he's in the cistern?
So this is Joseph at the top panel.
Oh, that's Joseph at the top. Okay, gotcha.
He finally reached them, and this is the anger brewing. It's like, I've been to Shechem. I didn't find you there. I had to walk a whole day to get here to Dothan, and I'm going to have to tell Father about this. And at the bottom, Judah says, then we will have to make sure you don't do that, won't we?
Okay, okay. I like that. That's cool. And then the last one, we've got some windows and a throwing in the pit, and then him down in the pit.
So, yeah, this is the tussle. This is the struggle. Trying to show chaos with the windows are not, they're not
not a normal way panels are drawn or windows. Yeah.
Right. So there's going to be a lot of. I'm still working out all of the action that's going to happen there, and then as if he's spilling out of the last panel.
I see that. That's really cool.
Falls down into the mud and the muck that's in the bottom of the cistern, and that's the end of the episode. Stay tuned.
That's okay.
That's my answer to that.
Okay. Pete Maw, first time chatter. Hey, welcome in. And Altus Rebbe, Shalomi, my homies, welcome in. And got the right
nice meeting you.
YouTube and Twitch connections there. So yeah, thanks for asking for those so we can get shout outs for ArtsyBibleNerd. So you can give Artsy a follow. My husband, Sunshine, says, loves your artistic talent, Artsy. So
thank you.
And yes, there is a lot of detail drawing involved in his work. Absolutely. Finally get to hang out with you. Well, I appreciate that. And those who came over on the raid, and Artsy, if you need to go, that's fine. I'm just going to hang out and chat for a little bit since people came over to raid. Do you need to go or?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go now.
Okay.
My family is staring at me.
Let's get hype in the chat for ArtsyBibleNerd. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out this evening. Appreciate it, friend.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely.